Hi everyone, my name is Julie. This is Keep Calm with Books and Coffee. I talk about books on this channel, mainly books about magic, and if you want to see more of that, you can subscribe down below. And today we are going to be doing my April wrap-up. Hello everyone. So it feels like I just did one of these, which is kind of true because my March wrap-up was rather late. It was like mid-April till we even got that up, and I went back to doing a more traditional style wrap-up where I just talked through the books that I am enjoying or reading, I guess, and also I kind of went over some of my stats and how my challenges are going. And I kind of liked it. So we're going to stick with that. I was trying to switch it up and I didn't find success with that for my own, satisfaction. I didn't feel like I was talking to you all about the books quite as much that I was reading. So I think we're going to stick with this style. I don't know. Sometimes the tried and true thing is what works best for us. And at least that's what's going to work best for me for right now. So let's jump into it. So let's talk about how my month kind of went overall first. So we're going to talk about my stats. I read 7 books in April, and I actually didn't DNF any in April, which is good, but I was reading a lot of books that I was really excited for, anticipated releases, books that I was rereading to, move the series forward, things that I was really enjoying. But both at the beginning of the month and the end of the month, I was pretty much in a reading slump, and I've kind of just been fighting that all month. So this isn't my most stellar reading month, but I also read a lot of really good books. So when I was reading things I really liked, which was great. I reread 3 books, and that resulted in 1,297 pages and 48.45 hours of audio. And I think that's where you can really see that this was a down month compared to other months where I sometimes have like 80 hours of audiobooks. I listened to 2 books fully on audio. I read 1 book completely physically, and then I immersion read 4 books, which was really the winner this month. I really took my time getting through a couple of these. I was annotating the Fallen Gods trilogy as well as just taking my time and reading some of the arcs that I read. So it was a very in-depth reading month when I was reading. As far as my genre goes, I read 1 nonfiction book, I read 4 fantasy books, and 1 manga. So let's jump into the books that I finished in April. The first one was Magic Bleeds by Lana Andrews. This is the 4th book in the Kate Daniels series, which I've talked a lot about on this channel. It's an urban fantasy series where we're following Kate, who is a mercenary at the beginning of the series, and she is alone on purpose. She's isolating herself to protect herself because she has some powers she doesn't want people to know she has. But when her guardian is murdered, she gets brought into the investigation essentially in order to try and help solve it. And this is a world where magic both surges and magic takes over the world, and then it goes away and technology takes over the world. So it's a very interesting sort of dystopian future urban fantasy series that I absolutely adore. I've been rereading the series on graphic audio because I love them on graphic audio, and this one was no exception. I actually think this was I meant to continue on with the series, but I think I reread this one for the 2nd time recently because I kind of abandoned my reread in the fall. So I reread this one, and then I told you that I would be reading Magic Rises this month, but I actually didn't realize that this was book 4, and I talked about book 6. So we're going to be reading book 5 in the future. But anyway, I love this series. I love Kate. I think it just gets better and better after each book. I just love the characters. I love the development of the world, and I really love sinking my teeth into this character development because Kate is such an interesting character. She develops and grows so much over the course of the series, and this is sort of where we start to see that journey really start to build on itself. The first 3 books are I have a hard time recommending the first 2 books. The 3rd book really kicks off the larger plot of the series and really gets us going. And then this is the book that kind of takes that launching point and then even grows it more for us. So one of my favorite series of all time. Absolutely love it. Can't wait to continue my reread. I also picked up Fruits Baskets Volume 1. I have the collector's editions for this entire series, and I really, really love it. This is a reread as well. In this series, we're following Toru, who is our character on the front cover here. She is a high school girl who, through a series of circumstances, is living on her own in a tent in the woods, and a local family discovers that she's living there and invites her to live with them in order to make her life easier and make sure she's not just living in the woods on her own. However, she soon discovers that the family that she's moved into, the Shoma family, if a member of the opposite sex hugs one of them, they turn into a member of the zodiac animal. And it's a very fun, silly series that has a lot of heart and warmth in it, and this reread is long overdue. I haven't reread it in a long time, and I'm very excited to continue on with volume number 2. Then I read At the Bottom of the Garden by Camilla Bruce. I actually buddy read this with Danny from Danny Dabbles, and this was such an interesting read. It's a little outside of my typical read since it's like a thriller horror book, but I do dabble occasionally. I dabbled with Danny instead of Danny dabbling. So this is the story of an aunt and her 2 nieces. Clara is the aunt who takes in her 2 nieces, Violet and Lily, after their parents pass away in an accident. And Clara has a lot of secrets to keep, and she also really would like to get her hands on the girls' fortune for her diamond business. But when the girls start seeing figures at the bottom of the garden and asking Clara about them, Clara might realize that someone else is going to uncover some of these secrets that she has. This was a really interesting premise. I actually really enjoyed this book overall, but I did have a number of quibbles with it as well. The 2 children, Violet and Lily, are fantastic characters. I really loved the development of them, and I really enjoyed our exploration of their gifts, because this is like a paranormal horror thriller. They are seeing ghosts, and that's explained pretty early on. That's not a spoiler, but it was a very interesting exploration of this, and I really enjoyed that. However, Clara is a bit of a mustache twirling villain. She's not that complicated, and over the course of the book, that really started to wear on me. We didn't see a lot of development there or any kind of change in what her motivations were, and that just kind of got boring to me over the course of the book. Like I said, did like the girls. I loved their character development, and there were just a few other things that frustrated me that are a little more spoilery. But overall, I did like the book. So I gave this a 3.5 stars. Next up was another reread, and I'm going to talk about 2 books in this series. The first is Sunbringer by Hannah Kanner. This is the second book in the Fallen Gods trilogy. I was rereading, annotating, and tabbing this book before we got to Faithbreaker, the final book in the series. And in this, we follow up God Killer, and I can't really tell you what's going on in this book, but in God Killer, I've talked about this a lot, so forgive me for describing it again, but we are following a God Killer, Kissin, who takes contracts to destroy gods in a kingdom where gods are outlawed, and she comes across a young noble girl who is attached to a god. She decides to go on a journey to try and separate them, and along the way they come across a knight on a secret errand from the king, and the 4 of them have to adventure and find out what's going on in their kingdom. We follow that up with Sunbringer. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars, both the first time and on reread. I really appreciate how much Kanner grows the world in this, develops our characters in this, and also I just found it really, as much as I wanted our character groups to be together throughout this book, I think it is valid for them to be separated, for our characters to be on different journeys and doing different things, and I really liked the exploration of all of that world politics, larger happenings, as well as our character growth. So I really enjoyed this book and couldn't wait to jump into Faithbreaker. Then I moved into Faithbreaker. This was another buddy read it was a very loose buddy read. We all kind of finished at different times, but we were able to scream about our feelings with one another, and that was with Brittany and Leandra. And I'm going to say right off the bat that this wasn't a full 5-star book for me. It was my most anticipated release of the year. I was so excited for this. book to come out, but I think at the end of the day, we are sitting at a 4.5. I really enjoyed this book, really enjoyed the timelines of most of our characters, really enjoyed seeing the development of the characters across the series. The larger each one of these books like expands our understanding of this world in a way that I don't often see in fantasy, like just the skill at expanding from our core group of characters to an entire kingdom and then to the world itself. And it was very interesting to explore that in this book. I really loved that part of the book. I really loved I can't talk about specifics, but like the larger political plots and the exploration of that and the gods was so interesting, so fascinating, and I really, really loved it. However, there were a couple of things that I had quibbles with late in the book, some decisions that, as far as plotting and pacing, but also there were two specific things that kind of really stuck with me that didn't make this a 5-star book. The first was that I had a specific character that their storyline didn't finish in a way that left me with no questions. And I can still have questions about a character, about a storyline, whatever, but this one was like, I still had questions about the foundation of this character and the foundation of their, beliefs and their actions, and I never feel like we got a really clear answer on some of that. So that was a quibble. And then I also didn't like a turn in a specific relationship in here and just how things played out with that and sort of where we left that relationship at the end of the day. So those were my issues. I'm thinking about doing a larger, dedicated series review at some point, but overall this was 4.5, which is still a stellar rating. I think Hannah Keener did an excellent job with so much of this book, but I did have a couple of issues and it didn't come out to a full 5-star read. Then to wrap up, just a few of the challenges I've been working on. The first one is the 2020 in 25 from Brianna over at Four Paws in a Book. I added one book to the bingo board this month and it was Faithbreaker. As far as my physical TBR goes, we started the month at 71 and we've gone up to 74, which is not great considering I wanted to have it from 75. So we're already 4 months into the year and we are right back where we started. But yeah, this wasn't the best reading month, and I also reread a lot of things rather than reading new books, so eventually, hopefully, the rereading will lead to a decrease since I'm getting to the series that I still have on my shelves that I need to remember what's going on in order to continue them, so that's a goal going forward. Then I did start my new Our Fantasy board for 2025 and added 3 books to that board. I used Faithbreaker for Gods and Pantheons. I would vote that book even works for hard mode. Then we have Parents, and I used At the Bottom of the Garden for this. This also would count for hard mode. And then I used Drop of Corruption, which I'm going to talk about in just a second, for Biopunk. So lots of good additions here, some good progress on my challenges. Then the last book I'm going to talk about today is A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is the second book in the Shadow of the Leviathan series. The first is The Tainted Cup, and I had received an arc of this, and then I also listened to the audiobook. I happened to get the audiobook while I was halfway through reading it, and this was another buddy read. April truly was the month of buddy reads because I ended up reading this with Leandra and Danny. So just an excellent time all the way around was had. But this is the story of Din, who is an engraver in this world where there is an empire that has several different rings, and the closer you get to the outer rings, the closer you are to danger, because the Leviathans can come out of the sea and cause disease and destruction on the outer rings. As closer you are, the more wealthy you are and the safer you are from the Leviathans and contagion. So Din is an investigator. He is an engraver, which means that when he sees something, he remembers everything. Like, he has perfect recall, perfect memory, which is great for investigating. And he works with Anna, who is another who is his superior and is more of a Sherlock to his Watson type character. And in this book, we follow up our first adventure. We have a little bit of a time jump, and we're investigating another part of the Empire from the first book. We're in a different place in time. This was such an interesting step in the larger story. I really loved this investigation because the story and the mystery starts out as a locked room mystery, but there are so many moving parts to this. It became so interesting and fascinating to follow. I loved the development of our characters and their relationships, and the introduction of new characters was really fun, and I got attached to them as well. Because we have Din and Anna as our core two, but then the people around them who are helping them investigate changed from book 1 to book 2. So it was really interesting to get to know those other characters in this other setting. The development of looking at different parts of the Empire was really interesting. The politics in the background, there was so many layers to this story, and I really, really loved it. And what I loved about the mystery was there were enough breadcrumbs where I started to put things together or have ideas about what was going to happen, but I didn't often guess exactly where we were going. So it was very fun and interesting to get to that point and be surprised while also feeling satisfied that you had figured something out. So I really liked that about this book. I cannot wait for the next one in the series, and I will definitely be continuing this series as soon as possible. But those are my updates for April. I do have some challenges that I didn't update you on right now because I have to figure out how I did on them. With the series board from Rainy as well as Suffer-a-thon and stuff like that, I was having trouble kind of getting it all together for this wrap up. So I will have more updates probably at mid-year on those things since they are sort of larger moving pieces. But that is it for me today. If you have any thoughts or feelings or want to share anything about the books that I talked about today, please let me know down below. You can also like, comment, and subscribe down there, and all of my links to other places you can find me online are down there as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!